There, now you pushed it. Okay, we are on chapter 21, and for this chapter, you only have to know 21.1. We're not doing 21.2, we're not doing 21.3, we're not doing 21.4, we're not doing 21.5 because there's not a 21.5. It's just 21.1. Yeah. 10 points if you can tell me what movie this is from.
Shirley, you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Shirley, you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Sure, you're gonna get one of these wrong one day.
Yeah, I think it's mine.
Green is correct.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone else?
No.
Sean, do you do anything but watch movies?
Shirley, you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
White is incorrect.
Fantastic.
Remember last time?
That's from the movie Airplane. That was in the late 70s, early 80s. I don't think y'all remember that.
Mine does.
Okay, well, it might sound. Plants. We think plants came from green algae, which is a protist. Why do we think that? Because plants have several similarities to protists. What are those similarities, you might ask? Well, here they are. Let's kind of run over them. You don't have to write all this down. It's all in your book. But first of all, both plants and green algae have cell walls made of cellulose. Cellulose in the cell walls. Plants have it, and green algae have it. A cell division that includes the formation of a cell plate. So, when animal cells divide, are you with me, Maggie?
Mm-hmm.
When animal cells, how can you be with me? Are you showing the screen?
Yeah. Oh, you want it on you?
So, when animal cells divide, they go like this. Whoop, right? But when plant cells divide, they stay rectangular, but a little cell plate forms between the plant cells. So it's kind of like a line gets drawn in between the two cells. They don't pinch inward, in other words. So that's both plants and green algae do that. Have that type of cell division. Both plants and green algae have the same types of chlorophyll. You can be back up on that now.
Okay.
It's called chlorophyll A. It makes them green. Not all protists have chlorophyll A, but green algae do, and so do plants. And there's another type of chlorophyll called chlorophyll B that both green algae and plants have too. And then they have similar ribosomal RNA. Y'all remember the ribosome? Y'all remember the ribosome over here? In my model, it kind of looked like that. And it was made of rRNA. Y'all remember that? And the mRNA came out of the nucleus and would go over here, and we'd make the protein. Remember that? Well, the ribosome of a plant is the same as the ribosome of a green algae. Similar ribosomes. They both store food as starch. Starch is a type of molecule made up of a bunch of these things connected together. A big row of these hexagonal molecules. We call that a polysaccharide. And we call it starch. Plants store their sugars as starch. Green algae store their sugars as starch. And then finally, the vesicles in their cells have similar enzymes. So, if you look at the little vesicles, they're carrying the same sorts of enzymes inside the cell. So there's a lot of similarities. This makes us think that algae evolved from that plants evolved from green algae. Now, plants aren't green algae. There is a difference between them. There are several differences. And basically, the main difference being plants can survive on land and algae cannot. Algae have to be wet to survive. You take an algae out of the pond and throw it on the land, it's going to dry up and die really quickly. Plants don't do that. Plants are able to grow on land. So, why is that? Well, there are four main things that you need to know that differ between plants and algae. One is a cuticle. A cuticle is a layer of wax. That's that stuff you see right there. This is under an electron microscope. A layer of wax that protects the leaves and the stem of a plant. It's a layer of wax. It's called the cuticle. Can you say cuticle?
Cuticle.
Not everyone said it at the same time. Can you say cuticle?
Cuticle.
Much better.
So where that?
It's a layer of wax on top of the leaf. So these are the normal leaf cells inside a leaf. And this is a layer of wax. Have you ever noticed that a leaf is kind of waxy?
Yeah.
And what that does is that keeps water in. If you take an algae and just throw it onto the land, all the water that's inside the algae will just evaporate into the air. There's nothing keeping it in. But a leaf has a layer of wax that keeps the water in, and it won't just dry up. Isn't that great? Waxy cuticle. Now here's the problem with a waxy cuticle. It blocks gases from getting into the plant. The gas that plants need in particular is called CO2, carbon dioxide. Have you ever heard of CO2 gas? CO2 gas is used in a process that plants use to make food. 10 points if you can tell me the process that plants use to make food. It uses CO2. Plants use it to make food. It's a process. I'll give you 10 points if you can name it. I'll give you a hint. It was one of your essays from the first semester. You have to name the process that plants use to make food out of CO2. White is correct. Green is correct. Peach is correct. Blue is correct. And purple is correct. Yeah, y'all got it. Photosynthesis. Here's another 10-point question. 10 points if you can tell me what, besides CO2, is needed to make the food in photosynthesis. There's CO2 and one other thing is required to make the food. CO2 is added to something else to make the food. Purple, incorrect. Okay. Peach, I guess I have to give it to you. That's not what I was looking for. Blue is correct.
White, there's no white paper.
I'm getting it. Green is correct. White is correct. CO2 is added to water to make the food, which is called glucose. And that's photosynthesis. You need light to do photosynthesis, and one of the groups put that, and so I gave that to you. You do need light to do photosynthesis. But to get the CO2 into the leaf, there are special little structures. They're called stomates. They look like little lips. Doesn't that look like lips? And they can open and close. Have y'all ever seen my hand puppet that I call Stoming? Hi, I'm Stoming. I'm like a stomate. That's what stomates do. They open and to take in carbon dioxide, and then they close. And why do they close? Why do you think that a stomate would close? It opens to take in carbon dioxide to use for photosynthesis. Why would it ever close? Why not just stay open the whole time? Yes, to keep the water in. So they close up, that keeps water in the plant, and they'll just open from time to time. So if you watch these stomates, they look like this. Hello. If you watch these stomates, they'll open and close periodically. There's thousands of them on a leaf. Have you ever seen one? You can't see them. They're microscopic. We can see them with our microscopes. We'll do that one day. We'll go in there and we'll take a leaf and we'll look at the stomates. Is that exciting? Another thing plants evolved to be able to survive on land is called vascular tissue. Vascular tissue are tubes that run inside of a plant, up and down through a plant, that allow it to move water from the roots all the way up to the leaves. Little hollow tubes that water moves through a plant. And the hollow tubes that move water are called xylem tubes. And there are also another set of hollow tubes that move sugars through the plant. The leaves make sugars, and the sugars are moved through these tubes. They're dissolved in water and moved through these tubes, and often they're moved from the leaves down to the roots to be stored. We call the tubes that move water xylem. Can you say xylem?
Xylem.
Can you say xylem?
Xylem.
And the tubes that move sugars are called